how am I spending my time? I'm obsessing over episodes of Jeopardy. And one of the questions that came up the other day was, what's the second largest city in Colombia? And I learned something, put it that way. And I think that's where you are right now, is in the second largest city in Colombia.
That's correct, yes.
And you're saying, you're describing before we started here how magnificent the mountains are there.
Yeah, I'm fairly fortunate. I live very close to the border of Medellin, and so I've got a beautiful view of the mountains, which unfortunately, it's very dark, so I can't show you. Lots of fresh air, and I think one thing that's really helped me stay grounded, I think, during this time is just to have that connection with the natural environment. Because I think personally, if I was a bit more holed up in the city of Medellin, I think I'd be going a bit more crazy than I am right now. And so, yeah, just incredible weather. I mean, Medellin's known as a city of eternal spring, and so the temperatures always between 20 and 30 centigrade all year round, and so it's wonderful most days of sunshine, and it just makes it a bit more bearable, which is perfect.
And I think I heard you say since January 8th of, was it 2020, that you've been settled in Medellin, or outside of Medellin, strictly?
Oh, so I left the UK January 8th, 2019. And I got here January the 16th in Medellin, and I've been here since.
Oh, so you've been just over a year in Colombia?
A year traveling. I was last year 6 months, and then I came back, and so yeah, roughly coming on to 9 months, 10 months now in Medellin. But yeah, when I got here, I just fell in love with the place, the culture, the people. It's really a great city and a great place to be.
And so, creativity, and that's something that I've really been advocating for as an expression, an outlet for our health and wellness in these times, and to kind of really take back some, mental control, I suppose, and certainly exercise our, ability to kind of relax our mind and not worry about the future, not be too kind of remorseful for the past and carry any great weight from the past, and be very present and kind of just let it flow a little bit. You've put together some I think a great beautiful piece of work that I thought you posted. Correct me if I'm wrong, and you've also been helping others with that process a little bit too, if I'm right.
Yeah, and so I think for me, working in London, I was doing a lot of coaching, but not necessarily around creativity. And I think since I did my traveling, especially when I ended up in Peru, I ended up meeting a teacher there. And for 3 months, I was just painting, like day after day, meeting up with, I had 2 teachers actually. I was very fortunate, and they just taught me how to paint. And I never painted before. I used to sketch, I used to watercolors, but not to paint. Like I always had this fear and this resistance about putting paint on canvas. And I think as soon as I immersed myself in that process, it's really unlocked something which I think started unlocking when I began my own therapy process about 5 years ago now. But now I'm feeling it's because I've been consistent in the role and in the practice. It's helped open up and help me understand something about myself, about life, and just about what I love. And I'm really just intrigued and mesmerized by the creative process. It's such a mysterious, beautiful process, and so scary and vulnerable at the same time. And I'm really it's really my passion right now to really immerse myself and also bring other people on the journey of really getting into their own vulnerability and expression around creating, and not just painting in particular, but I think all different aspects of creativity.
I think, would you, upon reflection, would you say that we can, something it's so powerfully powerful, I guess, in its potential and what how much joy and love it can bring us? Would you agree that kind of we have a tendency to get in our own way, and that there are kind of we'll put up kind of roadblocks, if you will, or mental blocks to kind of interfere with just the natural progression of kind of, well, let's just look after our health and wellness and do what fills us up and brings us joy. But sometimes we get in our own way. Do you think that that was your personal experience before this all began to unfold nicely?
Yeah, and still to this day, I think actually the last month, I think since everything changed so quickly, I didn't paint for the last month, and I was fascinated myself because I have a to-do list of every day of like, make sure these are the core practices that make me feel good. And for some reason, art just always seemed to be missed. It just never seemed to be enough time. And I really saw that old patterns of self-sabotage and maybe the critic and just denying myself the things that really make me feel good when I really get into the process. And so I think it's a constant battle, to really get out of your own way or get out of my own way to do what makes me feel good in terms of creating.
And it's really interesting to hear you talk about your own experience to this extent. I'm trying to think of what I someone that loves to journal, and loves to move, and try to share that with others. And I know that you come from a very passionate place, and we kind of share that we want to, give people the tools so that they can kind of, feel better about themselves, or be in that kind of state of flow, I suppose. And it's not something that you can always articulate to somebody when you want to share it and pass it on. So what's that been like for you to kind of share art and that whole journey with others so that they can kind of take it on too?
Yeah, I think for me, initially it's been quite hard, but when I really connect with my process, when I'm really more focused on actually this is something very important for me and something and as an expression of myself, and when I'm focusing more on the process versus what it looks like compared to someone else, then I feel I enjoy the sharing, and I see the way people respond when I share the process, the ups and downs, because art's for me, it's very mysterious. There's days, it's like the muse is there and you're going to fly through it. There's days you're going to have so much resistance. There's days you're going to hate your work. There's days you're going to absolutely love your work, and so I think for me, just being more honest about the process, and enjoying the process, that's what's really allowed me to share what I create versus allowing the critic to be like, well, you're not that good. There's always people better out there, but it's the love of the process and what it does for me that inspires me to share. And to this point, I've not had anything negative come back to me, from that expression of like, this is who I am and this is what I want to create, and I feel when you create from a place, not so much from ego, but somewhere from where you're creating from yourself, it touches other people, and it reflects a part of yourself as well as other people. And there's a connection that gets made between, wow, I can feel something, from what you've created. And that's beautiful when you can do something through symbols, particularly that inspires someone or makes them feel something.
Yeah, it's really, it's so experiential, I think. And, what I was just thinking about as I was listening to you is that how when it comes to like creativity and this awesomeness, that's just, we're on the precipice of awesomeness. I might use that phrase later. Is that we're always our own kind of worst critic. And it's again kind of where we perpetually almost sabotage or get in our own way. And so I think that's kind of like the devil of the shadow, that like metaphorically speaking, where I think coming to terms and being honest with that, and then I used the word honest a couple of times, I believe earlier, and I found that interesting. That keeping it real means, okay, I see it there.
Yeah.
I see it as the block or the obstacle, and it's not going to go away. It's just how I deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's, if I was to just go a bit through my own process, I think, you know, if I'm out of the creative process and I start again, the critic comes first, you know. And so when I started painting again, first thing was, you've forgotten how to paint. This is terrible. Or what are you doing? This is weird. And I've seen that once I stay with the process, actually, when I start creating something that I'm like, amazes me, I go to the other end of the spectrum where it's like, you are incredible, you're amazing, you can create, you're like better than everyone else out there. But it's staying with the process of the low and the high, the critic and the, well, let's say the super ego that just kind of says you're incredible. But when you just stay with the process, you go through the ups and the downs, but you're in the middle. You're just observing when you're thinking you're the best, and you're observing when you think you're the worst. And so that's been really incredible, just to watch myself, you know. And I really feel like for me, the canvas is a mirror of myself, because I'm putting myself onto something directly in front of me, and it's reflecting back. And so I feel I learn a lot about myself just when I'm immersed in that process. And I feel a lot of people do, when you're really in love with the process more than you are with the outcome.
Well, speaking of artistic muse, I have nearby in my midst one of my most exceptional pieces of work.
Yeah.
And I say that a little tongue in cheek. So I'm going to do a little show and tell, because that's going to spice it up a little bit on the show on the segment. And speaking of which, I mean, we didn't discuss this before, but I wonder if you might do us the honor of actually, you know, showing that which we've been discussing so much of. Would you care to show a piece of work, possibly?
Yeah,
I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I got a canvas here right now, so I can just turn slightly this way. If you take a look, that's,
oh yeah.
this is a piece I've been doing with perspective, and so I've been learning perspective as well as just playing with colors. But this piece has been hoarding me for the past month, and I'm starting to make some strides on it. But I think one thing that the artistic process has taught me is layers, you know, and staying consistent with creating layers and layers and layers. Because I think 90% of the work is just setting it up, and it's only the last 10% when something looks incredible. And so, you know, this piece, it's been definitely teaching me a lot about myself, and to keep going, to not stop. You know, if I'm feeling stuck, just keep moving through and allowing what wants to unfold in the process.
Well, you know, can you show us one more time? You can pan over.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So have you got an early kind of working title of this multi-tongued, multi well, that the teeth are a doorway of some kind, I think.
Yeah, this piece really started off as something else, and now it's turned into something else. So initially I wanted to do 3 paths, and I wanted this to represent the middle way. And so initially my thought was middle way. And now I don't know what it's turning into. And so I think the title is going to change. I mean, this wasn't here. Initially I did some Fibonacci sequences, and then that turned into this I don't know what it is, some sort of monster or elf or something. And I don't know. I think I'm going to have to name it at the end. And these type of pieces where I don't know what's happening are the ones that cause me the most anxiety and also the most joy, I think, because I'm really just surrendering to the process of creation, and I don't know what's coming next. I don't know what color, I don't know necessarily what's going to come next, but when it comes, I know what's next, and when it comes, it comes. And sometimes I just need to sit, and as it unfolds, and when it comes together at the end, I really feel like, oh wow, that came through me. It wasn't something I created, you know, from a sketch. It was something that I almost channeled. You know, you just allow each step to come one by one. And so, yeah, this is what I'm working on right now. And so, Middle Way is the first title. Right now, I'm not sure. I think it's moving into something else. So we'll see.
Middle Way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's it's your work in it's a magnificent work in progress.
Thank you.
Mine is almost as sophisticated as yours. Are you ready for it now,
Go
Cheyenne?
on. Please hit me.
Here we go. This is my Picasso right here. Okay, you ready?
Hey, that's actually pretty good. I like it. Could you lift it up a little bit more?
Lift it up like
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Is
Yeah, that's the full canvas, and you know, we're just
is that a BHS at the bottom? Is that what I see?
that's yeah, it's a
Ah,
limited edition.
I like it. Is it acrylic?
Uh, yeah, it is.
Mm. Oh, I like it. I like what's happening there. I like
The
the
floating food, floating
floating fruit.
produce. This was also, a little premonition, a pre-pandemic premonition, I think,
Yeah.
It's just, you can see like the convergence of like traffic of produce, like which way is it going to go? Is it going to
Yeah.
be in short supply? So
I like it. Nice use
that's,
of color.
that's
And how does it make you feel when you paint? Because what was your experience of doing it?
um, well, yeah, it was play and joy. Yeah, I would love to recapture that feeling. I mean, I think it's one of these things that once you get going, and as you say, into the process a bit, I think you can kind of really like to muddle in there in a positive way, and want to get back to it, like, because I
Yeah.
would love to get back to that.
Mm.
But let's talk a little bit of Corona for a moment, shall we?
Sure.
What do you, for those that sort of didn't quite hear our beginning, you're in Colombia.
Mhm.
What have you observed in terms of the physical distancing, the social distancing, the lockdowns? Or what's the climate been like for you there?
Uh, yeah, there's definitely two sides of that coin because the one side, Colombia's been very strict. I think in comparison to a lot of countries, they've been very quick and very strict. And on reflection, I think they've done a fairly good job of how they've handled it. And so, we've been locked down since I think it's been March the 20th now, and they've been giving it to like a week and a half, then extending a week and a half, then extending, and so I think they've done it incrementally instead of this long haul. And I'm imagining it's going to happen till the end of May. And this includes we're not allowed to go out for exercise. We can only go out certain days of the week for food, depending on the last number of our passports. So they tell you what days you can actually go out for, like supermarkets. Colombia into or outside like in the country. So they completely shut off all the borders. So there's Colombians who are stuck outside. And so on one respect, they're being very severe, and so I've definitely had to sneak out a few times just to get out in the mountains, and like, dodging police and hiding behind, but I just needed to get out because, I think just not being able to have daily exercise and being outside it does make you go mad, if you're just in the house the whole day. But I've been fairly fortunate as well because where I live, it's a little more relaxed, compared to in the city. And so I've got an apartment block within like a gated community area, so I can sit outside, but usually they're quite quick to shut things down. I mean, the general climate, it's it's not been as bad. I really look at US and UK in particular, UK being my home, and the laxity of the lockdowns there, the freedom, and I really see like
Hmm.
the importance that's been put more on the economy than the health of the people. And now that's from my perspective. And so I really see here that, they really, and it might be more so because they don't have the medical facilities to deal with a mass pandemic, you know, and so they've been very, very strict. And so as much as it's been difficult, I feel grateful because looking at Medellin's infection rates, it's pretty low compared to the rest of the country. And I'm not feeling so much in fear of infection as I might be maybe in the center of the city or maybe in another city like Bogota, which has the highest infection rates. And so it's been a very quick change, I think, of lifestyle. You know, I had a flight back to UK last week, and to know that I'm here, and it's been quite an adjustment. And I just wanted to link that back to creativity, actually, because I think initially there's a period of shock, you know, and I think a system shock of like, wow, everything's changed so quickly, you know. And on the one hand, I was like, this is awesome. I could just stay home and paint all day and just do creative things. But I think there's an adjustment period of like, okay, this is the new reality. And I think once you know, I think it's dealing with a grief of like an old world. And so, you know, I kind of see a lot of productivity posts now of like, well, you know, now's the time to do your best work. And I think a lot of people are bouncing between, oh my God, what is happening? I just need to maintain myself day to day. And yeah, this is the best time to do your most creative work. And I really feel like people need to respect their individual process in terms of finding when's the right time and the right space to be creative.
Yeah, I think we would acknowledge that it's a lot easier said than done in these times. You know, in order to kind of tap into your creativity, you've got to come at it from a place of modest relaxation. And these times are anything but relaxation times. This is history that we're in, and it's but like, you know, looking at it from another point of view, and the whole survive and thrive is it's giving us the opportunity to kind of check in from an inside out perspective and how we can empower ourselves with sharpening our life skills or learning some new life skills. And you know, I was actually out on a little jog out through the park. We're fortunate, yeah, here we had a beautiful spring day here for the first time. You know, it's the beginning of the month and spring is blooming here in Canada. It's not as warm as in Medellin or in Colombia, but it's sort of hinting at it anyway. So it's a bit of a euphoric day. And as I was kind of going through my jog, I was thinking about structure and routine and how we live our lives, you know, going to work, going to school, creating schedules, and you know, what's life all about in a sense. And when we can tap into creativity, it just helps us be all the more present. And I think that trying to really promote and advocate for more of a mindset like that, or a lifestyle that incorporates that, is gonna, you know, offer us such a richer form of abundance, I guess you could say. So, you know, I just, you know, threw out a whole bunch of stuff there, and you know, maybe part of it makes some sense, but it's just first thing that comes to mind. And I think what I heard you say is you traveled to the UK recently, or did I miss?
No, I had a trip, but it got cancelled.
Sure. Yeah.
So I would have been in UK right now if the flights weren't cancelled, you know. And so that's had a change in my, I think, just my life.
Well,
just picking up a thread of what you were saying, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just want to pick up a thread of what you were just saying, you know, around creativity in particular, and the importance of it, because I think, especially when you're at home for a majority of the day, and you're trawling through, you know, I think a lot of people are in consumption mode. You know, they're either consuming the news, they're consuming TV, they're consuming reading. And I noticed myself, because I think initially I was like, right, I'm going to really just study the things that I really want to study. And it gets to a point you get saturated. You know, you're full of information, and you need to get it out. And I think that's where something in the creative process is really important. And so I think that's what happened to me. I was consuming, learning. And then it was like, I'm full. And I needed to get it out into painting, you know, or writing or something. And I think it's so important of just the human how we're designed. We're in a constant process of inputting, but also getting things out. And so I think that's where creativity really is healthy, just to not making sure we're not festering too much within us. We're getting a healthy release. And for me, sometimes it's in humor, sometimes it's doing something very deep or meaningful. And sometimes it's just ridiculous, but it's getting out what's inside. And I think more than ever, that's needed, some form of release, and so even if it's just getting a pencil and just sketching some stupid things, or just letting your hand move, or writing, just it's so key, especially in this time when we don't have the liberty of moving around and sharing and interchanging with other people.
Yeah, no, and I think from that point of view, and thinking about the opportunity there in really using it as a utility and optimizing this moment, making the most of it. Sort of come back a little bit full circle to the critic, and to our inner critic, that is, and the barriers and blocks that we have. And so I'm kind of interested to hear from you, and you may have alluded to this earlier. So if I want to, come to you as creativity coach, because that's what you help people with, is their creativity, and certainly hear it in what you're saying. What would be the first step to try to reconcile, or acknowledge some of these barriers or blocks that we struggle with? Or I guess, first we need to be aware of them, I suppose.
Yeah, I think for me the easiest step to begin is just to start creating. When you literally and I see this a lot with clients and with friends. It's like, hey, let's draw together. Let's just, but I can't draw, and I see especially when it comes to drawing, there's something with drawing more than other forms of art I've seen. I think singing probably comes up there as well, but there's a real vulnerability in it. And so, if you say I can't draw, there's something behind that actual story, because everybody can put a pencil to the paper and move it around, and it's the critic of it has to look a certain way, or something's happened in the past. And so I think initially when you engage with the process, the blocks will come up, and then you can start to analyze, okay, so what's happened in the past, because I can identify very clear times where I've been blocked, in my own creativity, and they remain blocked until I started going through certain therapeutic as well as spiritual practices to help unblock these parts of my creativity. And so I think the initial part is to create consistently, and then seeing what are the stories, what are the beliefs, what are the different events and traumas that actually stop you from just saying, okay, I can draw, or I can paint, or I'm going to go push myself a little bit further in this field. And I think those are the first steps, just create and see what comes up.
Yeah, just do it. To quote a brand, it's a really powerful thing in that, you don't know what you don't know, until you try. And so, I mean, fear is always going to be a hindrance for us, and we hopefully won't forever be paralyzed by it. And I just, in the couple minutes that we have remaining, I just kind of want to think about what our takeaway messages are, and kind of wrapping up here. I think it's such an exceptional, piece for us to continue to suggest to people that these are the times to adjust, and to kind of do your best to relax and manage anxiety. And this can be done through pencil and paper, old school. In many ways, getting off your device, and the longer you can do that, the better. And the less you look at the panic-laden news and media that's put out to us, every moment of the last 2 months or so that we've been in uh, this pandemic, I think serves to fortify our mental, emotional, and physical health, because we know that physical health is going to follow as a manifestation, as an expression of feeling better, as feeling more relaxed. Um, so I think, the creativity side and to allow yourself to relax is actually a strength. To allow yourself to show vulnerability, to be brave in that sense, because that's where true courage really shows itself. Is in those moments, I think. Would you have anything to add to all that?
Yeah, I think just right now, a lot of us are connected digitally, and one thing I make a conscious effort to do is to go analog, and I used to keep a digital journal, and there's so many benefits to that. But now I write everything by hand. I try to do days where I just paint, and I try to switch off digital devices and outside news. And I think just having that almost sacred space for yourself to just be, and even for some people it might be being with plants and planting. But it's so, I think at this time is to just have those times where you can switch off from the noise, because there's a lot of noise right now, and a lot of it's not healthy for our mental health, our well-being. And so to find the spaces where you can get centered and to create, and even if it's a little bit, I don't think it has to be, you're going for a masterpiece, but just creating something a little bit every day, something analog, as often as possible, really helps to just keep a balance in these times where, you can, if you let go, you can really easily slip into a very dark place, binging Netflix until 4 a.m. and eating terribly and not doing the things that are just going to keep you in a good sense of balance. And so really having the balance between digital and analog, for me has been very important, and if possible, just getting outside in nature. Like, I think that's definitely been a very healthy reset for me, of just having that time away, from just the noise that's happening in the world right now.
Absolutely. Well, I really enjoyed this connecting with you. It's been a while, and to reach you in Colombia and hear about your great travels around the globe. Which, once things get relaxed and you can get your what do they call it? There's discussion about a corona passport or immunity passport, I think is what
Yeah.
it is. Are there any continents left that you got to check off still?
Ooh. I mean, I've been to Northern Africa. I think I want to do more exploration on Africa, but Canada seems on my list, because Canada's a second home for me. So coming back at some point, definitely not in the winters, but sometime to just see my community in Canada, including yourself, Barry. So that's definitely been very high on my list, and very, very much appreciate you reaching out and arranging this discussion.
Well, it's been my honor, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's so nice to reconnect. And that's one of the lovely things that's stemming from this moment that we're in. So many people finding that they're actually doing phone calls with people and reconnecting with distant family or old friends.
Yeah, and I think the positive thing, as much as many negatives, but the positives are that when there's less movement, less noise, you get to see what's really important in your life. And I think that's, I speak for a lot of friends. You see who's important, and you kind of remember what's important in life when you have to slow down and stop, and checking in on your parents, people who are high risk of health, and we don't know. And I think we're living in times where we're more day to day, and it's very important to stay present to what's important. And I think that's probably the blessing in all this as well. We get to see really what's important, who's there in these times.
Yeah,
and who wants to reconnect.
To reconnect and to do the check-ins. And so that's what I think we were doing with each other, and this kind of opportunity unfolded as well. And it's so great to talk creativity and see what you're working on. The middle, what was it? What are you calling it so far?
Well, the middle way, but it might change to something else when it ends. But I might stay with middle way for now.
Well, like, yeah, if you put some people on, like a Ferris wheel, it could be like a midway as well as the middle way, midway.
So that's definitely a possibility.
That's just my, digression there.
Yeah.
It's the Canadian way, Cheyenne, like. So yeah, to be continued. We'll definitely do another check-in. So hopefully people will grab some pencil, paper, and manage to make the most of this moment, which in real time hopefully won't be that much longer externally, but kind of explore that inner richness.
Sure. I hope so too. I think it's a good time, yeah, to start dusting off the projects maybe that were kept in the basement or just not had time, and to work on a little bit of something, that you wouldn't normally do.